Hello, it's a SMOD father here checking in again. Welcome to Clint's Meadow of Doom. I'm going to be doing a video today about some of the record labels that got me into music and doing this channel. Some of the labels that really inspired me. And these are basically the best labels if you're a stoner rock fan. Doom fan, anything to do with heavy, wah-drenched Doom and Stoner and Psych, the best record labels. And these are some of the older founding record labels that came out in the 90s. And I just wanted to talk about 5 of my all-time favorites and the most influential labels, ones that just had the biggest impact on me and this channel. And kind of go over some of the releases that they put out and just the overall style that the label was known for. The first label I'm going to talk about is called Man's Ruin Records, a very famous but unfortunately short-lived record label. And it formed in 1994 and was already defunct by 2001. It was formed by Frank Kozik, and he was a very famous graphic artist. A very, very famous graphic artist who did posters for bands. He did a lot of posters for punk-type bands, experimental post-punk type bands like the Butthole Surfers and stuff like that. He was a really influential, famous poster creator. And he also designed the album artwork for Houdini by the Melvins. He actually made this famous artwork here. You know, he had a very particular art style. You could see it here, very 50s style. And he also made the artwork for Queens of the Stone Age's self-titled album, as well as Americana by The Offspring, which has a really cool artwork that looks very similar to this in terms of its cartoon and the way the boy is drawn on that album cover. It looks very similar to the boy on this album cover. Frank was very, very famous, and he actually started a record label, Man's Ruin Records. Frank actually passed away in May of 2023, and I didn't know this at all. Somehow I missed the news that he had passed away. He passed away at the age of 61. So rest in peace to Frank the Legend Kozik. I don't know how I missed that news, but rest in peace to Frank. But he made a big impact in the music scene, both with his art and with his label, Man's Ruin Records, although it was short-lived and didn't end up being financially successful in the long run. It's a very influential record label for stoner and doom. Some of the stuff that was put out on Man's Ruins includes Solarized, Neanderthal Speedway. This album is really great. I actually tried to promote this album, and the band didn't want it uploaded, so I had to remove it. But really cool desert, Monster Magnet almost kind of style, desert and hard rock. Really cool album. If you haven't heard Solarized's Neanderthal Speedway, check that out. Suplex's Sad Songs, Better Days was also released on Man's Ruin Records. Another really hard rockin' type of album that's, you know, the one thing about Man's Ruin Records is they had a lot of straightforward, hard-hitting, no bullshit type of heavy rock. Even at times brash, extreme type of stuff. They also put out Green Machines, The Earth Beater. This is a very abrasive sludge with screamed vocals. So they put out some pretty extreme stuff. Frank was into extreme. He was kind of an eccentric person, so he was into a lot of eccentric music. But there was a lot of variety on this label. They put out Unita's Coping with the Urban Coyote, of course. Unita was the famous project of the singer from Caius. It was his band after Caius. Even stuff like Fu Manchu was released on Man's Ruin. Eaten Dust, which had their famous cover song Godzilla of Blue Oyster Cult. Very famous stoner rock cover. Los Nadas, Del Mar, a very famous desert rock album. Caius Worship, very Caius-y, if you haven't heard these guys. Of course, their second album as well. Another really great record. He put out Brant Bjork's Jalamanta, the original. This is the original release, which was on Man's Ruin. Bottom, a lesser known band. Feels Good When You're Gone. I've owned this for quite a while, about 10 years. It's very doomy, sludgy, female fronted, a female singer. Kind of like Acid King, which was also, I believe, put out on Man's Ruin Records as well. Another of my all-time favorite labels is Small Stone Records. Small Stone was extremely influential for this channel, and they were formed again in the 90s, around 1995, by Scott Hamilton. They're based in Detroit, Michigan. Man's Ruin was from California, so a couple United States labels here. A very famous and prolific record label that is still releasing stuff to this day. So this is a long-lasting one, unlike Man's Ruin. They have had great success. Acid King, Dozer, one of Dozer's best albums was released on Small Stone Records. Through the Eyes of Heathens, which I used to have on the channel. Small Stone Records was named after the effects pedal, Small Stone effects pedal. The old website, I really loved their old website. The old website was very retro looking. It had amplifiers, basically. It was like when you go to the website, it was like a big amplifier. And the knobs were where you could click to get to the different parts of the website. You would click on the knobs. So you'd have the different pages like that you go to, different tabs for the website would be basically lined up with the knobs for the amp. And it was such a unique website, and they changed it many, many years ago. I remember being so disappointed that the record label's website changed because it was just so unique looking before. It's still a decent looking website. So Small Stone Records, they put out stuff like Perplexa, The Sun and the Moon Getting It On. All right. Very unique album cover. This used to be on the channel. And this is a gorgeous album. Very psychedelic, very trippy. Just goosebump inducing. Oh my God, it's such a gorgeous album. I remember just being mesmerized by it. And this is a much less known band. They don't get very much respect. So check out The Sun and the Moon Getting It On. They released Halfway to Gone's High Five, a southern bluesy, southern metal inspired stoner rock album. And one thing about Small Stone Records is they put out a lot of stuff like that. Southern stoner and bluesy stoner, and a lot of straightforward ass-kicking stoner. Very much on the blues end and southern metal end of things. They put out stuff like Sasquatch. If you remember Sasquatch, put out Fireball Ministry, as well as Dixie Witch, which I also have on CD. This is another southern, Dixie Witch is another southern band, very southern blues inspired metal. This had an amazing song on it, Freewheel Rollin'. Freewheel Rollin' is an absolutely mesmerizingly awesome, slow building stoner anthem of southern stoner. So if you haven't heard Freewheel Rollin' by Dixie Witch, check that out. So Dixie Witch, another one like Halfway to Gone. Puny Human, all right, Puny Human. Revenge is Easy, as well as It's Not the Heat, It's the Humanity. Kind of retro looking artwork here. These guys are basically like Clutch on steroids. They're basically like even more stonerized, fuzz-heavy version of Clutch. Very much reminded me of Neil Fallon's singing when I heard these guys. And very wah, fuzz-drenched, intense, hard-hitting stoner rock. One of the more underappreciated stoner rock bands, I think, is Puny Human. They don't get nearly as much love as they deserve, but I had their albums on the channel way back 10 years ago and got them some promo. They put out a lot of variety too. This is Porn, the Men of Porn, Wine, Women, and Song release from Small Stone Records. This actually was a very interesting project. This had both Dale Crover, the Melvins drummer, and Billy Anderson, the very famous stoner doom producer who produced stuff from Sleep and Neurosis. He was a very famous Billy Anderson, known for his very immense doom production style. You just knew you were going to get crushed into oblivion if Billy Anderson was producing. And so he was on this album, playing in this band. So you got Dale Crover, Melvin's drummer, and Billy Anderson. This is a very, as you would expect from those two guys, a very sludge, doom, slow-building, intense record. Much different than a lot of the other stuff on Small Stone Records. The songs are a lot longer, a lot more experimental, a lot more doom and sludge oriented than most of the stuff on the label, as Small Stone Records was more for the straight-ahead blues type of stoner rock. Moss Generator fits that straight-ahead style a lot better. This is Moss Generator's Songs for Future Gods. Look at that artwork, okay? Really love this album. Artwork very much space stoner oriented. This is, I think, the best Moss Generator album, although a lot of people would probably disagree with that because they've put out a lot of fantastic stuff. But this is probably my all-time favorite Moss Generator album, and it used to be on the channel as well. This album has some very famous Moss Generator songs on it, like Silver Olympus, Son of Adam Smasher, Wizards of the Prophecy Pen, Yes, My Lord, Into the Long Sleep. Very, very, very kick-ass Small Stone Records release. If you check out one Moss Generator album, check out that one. They have stuff like Dwellers. All right, Pagan. This is Pagan Fruit by the Dwellers. More of a psychedelic stoner rock band. A lot of good variety on Small Stone Records, and they're still putting out absolutely fantastic stuff. But they put out Low Pan, another great band, Greenleaf, another fantastic band. Acid King, of course. If you haven't delved into their label catalog yet, you'll be busy for a long time because, boy, hundreds of releases from Small Stone Records. Another one that I really love is Elektrohasch Records. Now, Elektrohasch Records was formed by Stefan Koglek, I believe his name is. Color Haze founder, the singer and guitarist of Color Haze, very famous German band. Elektrohasch was covering a different style than these other labels. Instead of being intense, hard-hitting, bluesy stoner rock and desert rock and more straight ahead, this is a label that was more psychedelic and jam-oriented, much like Color Haze is. So if you like the Jimi Hendrix long, improvised instrumental stuff that really soars and has that psychedelic, wah-drenched, floating, just long, improvised soloing, if you like that kind of stoner rock, you can't get much better than Elektrohasch Records. Color Haze, Periscope, they've put out all the Color Haze stuff, of course. And, of course, Los Sounds de Krauts. Casa Sui's Summer Sessions 1 through 3. Again, this is all very similar stuff. Long, drawn-out, instrumental, experimental. With Casa Sui, a lot of saxophone. The Machine put out Sola Corona as well, which is their most famous release, which is almost impossible to find on physical format. I've been trying to hunt down the CD, but unless you want to spend hundreds of dollars, you're probably not going to find it. It's absolutely a beautiful album, of course, that has their famous song Moons of Neptune on it, which has a lot of views on YouTube and is about 20 minutes long. So they put out a lot of stuff like The Machine and a lot of European stuff, of course, being from Europe. And they put out Sungrazer, a very famous band that I used to have on the channel as well. Josiah, another great band. They've put out so much great stuff in this. If you're just into psychedelic, more mellow psychedelic, improvised jamming, a lot of instrumental guitar, if you're into that psychedelic guitar playing and instrumental stuff, oh my God. Elektrohasch is a must-hear label. The Machine, Sungrazer, Color Haze, Kasasui. Check out Elektrohasch Records. You'll find your psychedelic side is very much nourished by them. Last couple record labels I wanted to talk about. TP Records. TP Records was another American record label from New York City. They put out some really great stuff, including the first album that had ever been featured on SMOD, Witch's self-titled album. Okay, they put out on TP Records. They put out Nebula, Heavy Psych. Another one that I had on the channel, Weird Al's Ever the Silver Cord Be Loosed. A very psychedelic, indie, folksy style stoner rock album. Very beautiful album. If you're into a more laid back type of stoner rock, that's great stuff. They put out Earthless, all right, Rhythms from a Cosmic Sky. And they put out their second album, From the Ages, which I think I have on CD, but I was looking for it and couldn't find it. I have so many CDs that some of them get lost. One of these days I'm going to show off my entire CD collection, and you'll see just how much I own on physical format. Physical format's the way to go. I mean, that's the way you should own your music. They even put out more famous stuff like Graveyard's self-titled album. They put out Nam. It's Got Kingdom, the opening track, a very famous stoner song. I used to have Nam on the channel as well. This is a very unique album, a very unique band. A lot of progressive, long drawn-out progressive stoner, complex stoner, Tool stoner. So if you like complex stoner rock with progressive elements, you would love Nam. Red Giant, Ultramagnetic Glowing Sound, which is one of my all-time favorite stoner rock releases that's very underrated, underappreciated band. This band is just intense. This album in particular, very intense. Doesn't even give you a chance to breathe. Just drenched in psych fuzz. It's got dual guitar playing on it. No bass, dual guitar. Lots of riffs with dual guitar. Some of the coolest guitar playing you'll hear on a stoner rock album. So check out Ultramagnetic Glowing Sound by Red Giant, also on TP Records. They put out Cadaver, their self-titled album. Just a lot of stuff. Spirit Caravan. And of course, MeteorCity is another one. Very famous record label in stoner rock. Formed from New Mexico, another United States one. So United States labels. A lot of great United States labels. Again, founded in the 90s, late 90s here, 1997. MeteorCity released some really great desert, mainly desert. That was what they were known for, the desert rock. They put out stuff by Caius and Fu Manchu. And a lot of the Palm Desert scene, that Palm Desert scene. But they also put out some European stoner rock, which was great to see, including Lowrider's Ode to Io, a very famous desert stoner rock album from Europe. They even put out Truck Fighters' Gravity X. This was the original label for Gravity X by the Truck Fighters before they formed their label Fuzzorama Records. Yeah, Fuzzorama Records. MeteorCity helped them release their records before that. Spirit Caravan, Another fantastic stoner rock with Scott Wino from, of course, the famous St. Vitus. This is The Last Embrace, which was a compilation of stuff from both of their albums. Jug Full of Sun being my favorite, their debut album. Jug Full of Sun is an epic stoner rock album. So MeteorCity put out Spirit Craven. And they also put out Blind Dogs, The Last Adventures of Captain Dog. Another hard-hitting, heavy psych blues desert style. MeteorCity, again, a lot of desert rock, a lot of the desert style. Anything that Caius inspired, they really put out a lot of that. MeteorCity's another one, and all that is heavy /stonerrock.com. Boy, if you think SMOD is a great music promotion outfit, they outshine anything I've ever done. And I owe them a great gratitude, places like this. So really, to do a music promotion channel, you just needed to know where to look. Without the labels I've been mentioning in this video, probably never would have been able to do SMOD and become successful. So basically, none of this stuff was being promoted properly on YouTube before I came along, and that's how I built the audience. That's how I built the platform, SMOD. And I'm so proud to be able to use all these old 90s and 2000s stoner rock bands and labels to help create an audience, create a platform to help the new generation of stoner rock from the 2010s onward. Honorable mention goes to Southern Lord Records. Southern Lord was another one that, as the name implies, released a lot of drone and doom. They put out Earth, The Bees Made Honey in the Lion's Skull, which is probably the all-time best Earth album. If you haven't heard any Earth album or you want to check out Earth, that's the album that really blows people away. Very famous Earth album. They put out Even Boris, the Japanese band. This is one of their famous records, Akuma no Yuta. And of course, Pink by Boris, probably their most famous record, was also a Southern Lord release. And The Hidden Hand. The Hidden Hand, another of Scott Wino's projects, the very prolific St. Vitus lead singer. This is Mother, Teacher, Destroyer, a very great doomy record. Good, crunchy, doomy stoner rock. Southern Lord put out a lot of the doomier, sludgier type of drone-inspired stoner and doom. So Southern Lord is an honorable mention in this video. The labels, again, Man's Ruin Records, Small Stone Records, Elektrohasch Records, TP Records, MeteorCity Records. All these record labels were very much influential for SMOD. So, and just put them out there in case you haven't heard of them and in case you have never gone to their websites and checked out their catalog. It's a great way to find a lot of stoner rock bands, many of which have stopped releasing records and are, from 10 or 20 years ago. So maybe some of their releases have passed you by. Go check out their websites. Do the research online. You'll find so many great albums from these record labels. I hope that this was an informative video for you. Thanks for watching. Doom on. I'll talk to you soon, and enjoy those record labels.